Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Joe and we are looking at the best captain to consider for Game Week 8. Usually this season and last season, we just put the armband on Haaland at Man City and forget about it. But this week could be different. The Norwegian faces Arsenal away. Meanwhile, Salah is up against a very leaky Brighton defence on the road there. And Son's Spurs side take on newly promoted Luton. It's worth at this stage reminding everyone that last year's winner only captained Haaland half of the games last season. He looked elsewhere, and this is the sort of week where he and perhaps this year's winner will also look elsewhere to see if we can get a little bit more points from our captain. So a lot of your decision will be based on what type of manager you are. Do you like to play it safe? Do you like to take a gamble? Also, is the opposition as easy as we think for some of those key candidates that we might be considering? So what we'll do here, we'll have a look at the worst defences over the last 6 matches they've played. Obviously, Luton and Burnley have had. I think they're now up to speed because they've had their blank fixture and their double. But it just pays to look at the last 6 matches so we can get it all ironed out and exactly the most recent matches there. And then we'll deep dive into those 3 key player stats: Haaland, Son and Salah. I think they're going to be the 3 leading candidates for this. A bit of a spoiler, I on the Goals Imminent video podcast with Tom earlier this week said Son would be my captain. After doing this video research, I've changed my mind. Okay, so a bit more of that a bit later. So let's have a look at those defences. Just before we have a look at those, just remind everyone, do press that like button. It really helps us out. And do remember to subscribe and tell your friends to subscribe as well, those who play FPL. It's great for us and it really will be really helpful. So, yeah, looking at the fixtures on the screen here, I mean, Spurs against Luton looks the standout. This looks to be the one where you're going to get the most chances on goal. In theory, promoted team against a very attacking Spurs side under their new manager as well. Some other options as well. Salah against Brighton is away to Brighton. I saw that match the last season and Liverpool weren't in the best form and Brighton were in great form. However, Brighton now have Europe. They are playing Marseille this week. That's an absolutely huge clash for them. So that's going to be their prime focus. Then they're going to be on to Liverpool. But will they manage to do it? They're not used to playing 3 matches in a week, weekend, midweek, weekend again. Liverpool are used to that, though, and they have a much easier run. Bizarrely, they have a much easier Champions League group than Brighton do in the Europa League, arguably. I think so, anyway. It's very tough. So, nevertheless, it's an option there. Ollie Watkins, straight off a hat-trick playing Wolves. We also spoke in the Goals Imminent video about how Wolves are actually quite good this season, and also they do play up historically over the last few seasons against Villa, their local-ish rivals. And then you've got Haaland, who is always an option, but he does have the trickiest fixture. It's probably the trickiest fixture against Arsenal, who widely considered going to be vying for the league title this year. So yeah, let's have a look at those defences. So what we're really interested in is the Brighton defence for Salah, the Luton defence for Son, and the Arsenal defence when it comes to Haaland as well. So looking at the worst defences the last 6 matches, been no surprise to people to see that Sheffield United are there with expected goals conceded of 15.76. So basically 16. They were expected to concede 16 goals. They in fact conceded 18. They've had no clean sheets, and they're conceding over that period an expected goal every 37 minutes. So that's not great. Bournemouth, not great either. Their expected goals conceded is 15.18, 15. Their expected goals conceded 14. So pretty much doing what the expected stats say. They have kept a clean sheet, however, so marginally better than Sheffield United. But their minutes per expected goals conceded every 38.7 minutes. Then West Ham as well. But West Ham have had some tricky games. So that's partly why they're there. I mean, and that's also when you look at a short span of, say, 6 weeks, 6 matches, you've got to look at the sort of opposition they've been playing. But I thought six matches does sort of bring in some easier games and some harder games. It's much better than, say, 4 matches for looking at defences. So, yeah, West Ham are next on the list. They've only conceded 9 goals, so they've been... Their expected goals conceded was 13, but they've only conceded 9. So perhaps their defence is a bit better. Perhaps Areola is a better keeper there. I know there's some people are wildcarding this week. Areola's on the list there. They have also kept a clean sheet, and their minutes per expected goals conceded every 44 minutes are marginally better than those worst 2 in Sheffield United and Bournemouth. Next up is Fulham. They're the worst, one of the 4th worst defence. Expected goals conceded over the last 6 matches, every 12.48. 12.48 expected goals conceded over that period. They have conceded 12 goals, so pretty much doing what they should do. But they have kept a couple of clean sheets there. So Leno, an option, their minutes per expected goals conceded every 46.9 minutes. Right, okay, so let's have a look at the main ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 7th worst or 13th best, however you look at it, defence is Brighton. Their expected goals conceded over the last 6 matches is 10.27. They have, in fact, conceded 13. So they've been marginally unlucky, but nevertheless, they do have the 7th worst expected goals conceded out of all teams over the last 6. They've kept no clean sheets, and I think that's key. They will concede. So they could play Marseille this week. So they've got the Europa League, and then they're going in straight into this Liverpool clash. So minutes per expected goals conceded every 57 minutes. So a bit better than those worst defences there. But they're still amongst the worst defences. Then you've got to go a little bit further down. Over the last 6 matches they've played, Luton expected goals conceded is 8.87. That's better than Crystal Palace, better than Nottingham Forest, better than Manchester United. They have, in fact, conceded 10 goals. So they've been marginally unlucky there. They have kept no clean sheets. That is key. Their minutes per expected goals conceded every 65.6 minutes. So already it's sort of swinging a bit towards Salah in terms of if we think Brighton can concede, who's going to be involved? Salah's been more creative this season, but he has also scored and he is on penalties as well. Luton's defence is actually marginally better than I thought. It's still not great, but it's sort of mid-table. In fact, it's amongst the sort of better half of the table in terms of expected goals conceded. And the fact that they're at home as well, and Son, we think, may be carrying a knock, we don't know, it's making me, at this stage, lean a bit more towards Salah. Because I think he might be involved, and what we want is just points. Having said that, Son could get a hat-trick against anyone, and he is playing Luton. But I don't know how well he'll be suited to this game, how well Luton will defend. Will it be more of a game perhaps for Maddison to sort of cut in? Will Son sort of occupy some of the defenders while other players come in, perhaps some of the fullbacks, but Perot or Destiny Udogie? It's hard to call, but I think with Brighton, I envisage, I'm not saying Liverpool will win that, but I think they'll score, and I think Salah will be involved. Whereas Luton and Son, I'm a bit iffy at the moment. But nevertheless, a good shout for the captaincy. And then we've got to go all the way down the list. The 2 best defences in terms of last 6 matches is Arsenal and Manchester City. But they are also amongst the best attacks. Well, Man City are anyway at the moment. But, in theory, that it should be good defences against good attacks. What will happen there? It's tough to tell. And that's why this is a tricky one for Haaland. And this is why people are looking elsewhere. So Arsenal's expected goals conceded is just 4.97. Manchester City's is 4.84. When you compare that to Sheffield United, which is 3 times as poor, their goals conceded, they both conceded just 5 goals. Sheffield United have conceded 18, to put it into context. Arsenal have 3 clean sheets. Okay, so we've only had 7 matches, 3 clean sheets. So once again, that's another sort of tick against, sort of a cross for Haaland there. And then Man City, his clean sheets is 2 as well. So that's tough to call. Minutes per expected goals conceded every 119.9 minutes for Arsenal, every 120.5 minutes for Man City. I'm not saying Haaland won't score. I'm not saying he won't get a hat-trick. But the stats indicate that he will face a tougher time trying to score than perhaps Salah against Brighton and indeed Son against Luton. So those options there. Just before we move on to those 3 candidates, there are other options as well. Obviously, Ollie Watkins as well has done very well against Brighton. He's also been more creative, but also has won a lot of penalties. So, I mean, for example, Ollie Watkins has 6 assists already this season, which is pretty good. And obviously, he's got 4 goals. So he is an option against Wolves, but I do think that Wolves might be a sterner test than the Brighton defence last week. So there are options there. And of course, looking at the worst defences, who's playing Sheffield United? That's Fulham as well. Now, it's hard to pinpoint a sort of striker. I don't think there's any captaincy consideration there. Everton against Bournemouth. No one is going to captain an Everton player. But if you were that way inclined, they have on paper one of the best games this week for their attackers. Whether Calvert-Lewin starts or not is another matter. Okay, just another reminder to press that like button and do remember to subscribe if you're not already. All of these stats here, by the way, are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Do have a look on site there. We've got the web address there. It's fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Do have a look there about signing up to be a member. Lots of options there. And you can create your own tables. I created this one. And there's lots and lots of tables you can create. Obviously, the goals imminent and assists imminent tables are there as well. We showcased that in a video and podcast earlier in the week. Let's have a look at, let's compare these 3 candidates then. Okay. So Salah, let's go for Salah first. 12.6 million. So he's hard to get to unless you're perhaps on wildcard or you've started with him or you want to cut some corners elsewhere. So he might not be that well owned. His expected goals this season is 3.79. That's the 3rd best amongst midfielders. His expected assists this season is 2.73. That is the 2nd best amongst all midfielders. In terms of actual goals scored, he scored 3. And in terms of actual assists, he's got 4 assists. So it's a real mixture of goals and assists there. Lots of goal involvement. But if you want goal involvement, Haaland trumps Salah there with his XG alone. His XA is negligible. So he's 14.1 million. He's in most teams. He's often 190% effective ownership. He'll be a little less this time. But essentially, if you own Haaland, what you're going to be up against this season is probably 140% owned Haaland, taking into account those that captain him. That's what I think. But so nevertheless, any returns from him is a rank drop just from that there. So, so you've got to rely on your captain choice if you're not captaining Haaland doing better. His expected goals is 7.94 this season. That is top. He has scored 8 goals, so he's pretty much bang on. He's expected to score about 8. He scored 8. This is great. His expected assists is negligible, 0.27. It's non-existent. And his opponent is Arsenal, as we've mentioned there. So this has got the toughest fixture, but the greatest goal threat. Son, 9.3 million. He's already a very popular buy for people who don't own him already this week, and he'll be a popular captain. His opponent is Luton. People will see that. His expected goals so far this season, this includes a period when he was out on the wing. He's now playing, we think, fairly going to be nailed on as the central striker in the Spurs side. Expected goals is 2.94. That's the 5th best amongst midfielders, but that also does include a period where he's out on the wing. So, and his expected assists is 1.27. That doesn't figure. It's not ranked there. It's quite far down the list there, so I didn't want to put that in. So, better than Haaland's, but still quite negligible there. So, for me, looking at all of them, in terms of wanting a return from my captain and wanting the best possible chance of returns, I think with Liverpool on the back of the VAR shenanigans that went on last week, the fact they're against a team that aren't used to playing 3 games a week and are just playing Marseille, and have injuries, Stupinan the latest this week, and the fact that he's got expected all-round goal involvement of assists and on penalties, I think Salah's going to be my captain this week, personally. Haaland, a good option for the expected goals, but he is against Arsenal, and that's I'm going to move away from Haaland. I think this is the time. This is the first game week this season so far where I think no, I'm going to avoid Haaland for the captaincy. And Son is another great option, and it's probably going to go down to the wire. So I'm going to probably flip between Salah and Son all the way. But Son is also definitely in the reckoning. And if not my captain, he'll be my vice captain. So between Salah and Son for me. But Salah at the moment just has that edge. But Son is that opponent as well, as I think Salah's got a good opponent for an attacker this week. And I think Son is very clinical. But I just wonder with Brighton's. I mean, I don't know whether this is me being a Brighton fan and being overly pessimistic. So do take that with a slight pinch of salt there. But I think I marginally favour Salah there. So hopefully I've given you some food for thought there for the best captain. This is definitely a good week to go against Haaland. Having said that, Haaland could score a hat-trick and Salah and Son could blank. But on paper, I think Salah and Son look great options there. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Do remember to press that like button. Do remember to subscribe, and do check out Fantasy Football Scout for more information about their membership and creating your own tables and getting your own stats here as well, and even perhaps creating your own content when you have a look at those. So thanks a lot for your time. Have a good game week. Good luck with your captain choice. See you soon.